The challenges of life demand that we measure up. And that's a fact IntelliCare understands and takes seriously. IntelliCare understands that the cycle of healthcare begins when you're healthy. Because we see the big picture and approach healthcare holistically, we make it possible for you to stay well, prevent illness, or catch it early on. It assures you that when you do need it, professional medical care and treatment will be available. So you can take comfort in the fact that we're managing the resources and cost of quality healthcare. Technology makes it possible for us to serve a wider base of customers online, day and night, so that we can focus on improving the numbers that really matter to us. The numbers that track your health, that drive down the cost of quality healthcare, that show you're in the best of health, so that you can strike a healthy balance in life. A balance that's critical and necessary for a life well lived, something we recognize and fully understand.
We are the leader in healthcare management because of a delicate balance we've achieved through the years. We're grounded on our core value of compassion, yet daring enough to make groundbreaking changes. We take pride in the tradition of excellence, yet always open to innovation. We're anchored in our commitment to the Filipino people, yet unfettered as we reach out to serve them better. And why do we do this? Because we believe that good, quality healthcare isn't something one simply aspires for. It is a constitutional right as inalienable as any other basic human right.
IntelliCare, your intelligent health choice.
Hello! Good afternoon, everyone! So, maupay nga aga sa mga galing ng Tacloban and also for those na galing ng Cebu, maayong udto sa inyong tanan. So, we're really hoping that all of you are staying safe and healthy. And we're really glad that you're joining us for today's IntelliTalks session. And you know what? This is really just our second IntelliTalk session. And thank you for those who've joined us again this afternoon. If you've been part of the first session, This is really part of IntelliCare's commitment to you, our partner clients, in providing a venue where you will learn and you will truly, even in this time of pandemic, we truly want to let you know that we care for your total well-being so that you can take care of yourself and also take care of your teammates. So this afternoon, of course, we also want to kind of know you a bit, but this is just going to be a very short poll among the participants. So we have around 165 people joining us today. And this is just a quick poll, and we're going to share you the link. This is going to be the link where you will go to and answer one question. This is only one question of what field of work you're in. So please scan the QR code if you're using an iPhone, or you can also check your chat box. There's a link there, and then you can, it will redirect you to Mentimeter. Okay, so I'm also going to show you my slides. All right, Vince. Okay, there. I hope you're there in the Mentimeter link. You can also type in the code. Yeah. So if you're there, you should be seeing these questions already. So yeah. So just answer this question. From what field of work are you in? So are you from HR or from finance or other support groups or sales, or you might be in operations, or maybe you're a business owner or probably a consultant or a trainer or a freelancer. So there. So just quickly answer so we get a feel of who are those joining us this afternoon. So also this will be very helpful to our speakers. All right. Okay. So there, just type in your answers. So there, you can see it on your screen. Ayan. So we have a lot of people from operations as well, not only from HR. Okay. All right. So I'm giving maybe 30 seconds more for those who want to key in your answer. All right. So there. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much. There. So you now can see that we have really a lot of people from HR and operations, and also from finance and also sales. So it's really a mixed group. I thought that it will be mainly HR people, but I'm really glad that we are joined by other people from other departments and even independent consultants. So thank you for really joining us. And this will really help as well our speaker this afternoon in terms of addressing or giving his examples. Okay. So there. So thank you so much for really participating and joining in the quick poll. So we really just wanted to get a feel of the profile of everyone who joined this afternoon. So today we would like to let you know that we have invited our senior assistant vice president to address you with her opening remarks. So let us welcome Ms. Josephine Sabuga.
So, good afternoon everyone, and maayong hapon sa tanan natong kaigsuonan diha sa Visayas o Mindanao. Welcome to IntelliTalks or IntelliCare Talks in partnership with PMAP Cebu. Just to give you a background, this webinar was created to be in touch and stay connected with our valuable clients even during these trying times. Through our series of webinars, we aim to provide our partner companies with credible information and practical advice from key industry leaders. And we are very lucky this afternoon that we will be joined by none other than Mr. Jovenir Bataycan, who will talk about the search for inspiring leaders begins with you. This is very timely because we are doing remote work. I am also excited to inform you that he will be launching his latest book right here, entitled Finding Mr. HR Day, or I hope I pronounce it correctly, a post-pandemic leadership and people management handbook. and get a chance to win a signed copy of the book's first edition. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and we encourage everyone to ask questions at the end of the presentation. Let's have a fruitful afternoon and apply what we learned. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Josephine Sabuga, for your remarkable remarks this afternoon. And of course, just a few more reminders for everyone. So as we go into the speaker and then the session proper, you can actually use your QA chat box to key in your questions as the speaker continues to present the slides. And you can also ask live question later and just raise your hand over your screen so we can switch on your microphone. And we urge everyone as well to put your microphones on mute when not speaking. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce formally our speaker this afternoon. Of course, Mr. Bataykan manages Idea Central, and currently he is conducting various trainings, and he also does management consulting. And of course, he has over 30 years experience in people management in such areas as learning and performance, engagement, and communications and leadership as well. So Mr. Bataykan loves writing and has already authored 3 fiction novels. He is a former FM radio and also a former columnist. So he also does run corporate events and marketing and advertising programs. And in 2014, in fact, Mr. Bataykan was president of the Philippine Society for Training and Development in Cebu, and he has managed and hosted various PMAP Cebu regional conferences. So truly, Mr. Bataykan is really a people-oriented person. So today, we would like to welcome our very own speaker and this afternoon's who will deliver to us how it is to develop more as a leader. So let us all welcome Mr. Jovinier Bataykan.
Thank you so much, Ma'am She. Thank you, Ma'am Pen. Thank you so much. So I hope you can all hear me clearly, Miss Fen. I'm sorry, Miss She. How am I?
Yes, very clear, Sir
Very clear.
Jovinier.
Thank you. Maayong hapon kaninyong tanan, and I'd like to thank IntelliCare first and foremost. Thank you so much for hosting this, and thank you to IntelliTalks, Sir JM, and the rest of the IntelliCare team. Thank you so much, Sir Chito Recamadas, of course. Thank you for the support. It's a unique event because this is the first time that I will be doing a virtual launch. And this is also the first time that an author is going to do a learning session on the side. I'd also like to thank Dr. Grace Iligan, the president of PMAP Cebu and the president and COO of Cebu General Services Incorporated, whose idea it was, together with Sir Ray Felnar, to actually promote the book through the regional conference and now through IntelliTalks. So I am so grateful once again to IntelliCare. And of course, thank you so much to PMAP Cebu. I'm sharing with you just a few of the feedback from those who were able to read the book already. So we'll be raffling off a couple of copies to everyone and hope you get a chance to also enjoy the book. I'd like to start by sharing this quote from everythingfunny.org, and it actually best encapsulates what is happening right now with the COVID and everything else. So 2020 actually started off, of course, despite the optimism, there was something strange about 2020 when it started. There were, if you've heard about, of course, the volcanic eruption in Taal, there was the assassination of a Russian general, a leading Russian military officer in Iraq, and it actually threatened world peace once again. And there were bushfires, there were forest fires, and of course, the one that actually rattled off Sir Chito Recamadas was actually the breakup of James and Nadine Lustre. So he was really bothered by it. So for him, it was 2020 was actually off. And then, of course, Kobe Bryant crashed. A lot of strange things, but nothing compared to the pandemic. And this actually encapsulates everything. So far, 2020 is like looking both ways before crossing the street and then getting hit by an airplane. That's how incredible the whole situation is. It best describes how we are right now. And that's why I'm speaking to you over a virtual screen and hoping to get in touch. So I hope that you're all settled wherever you are, and let's gonna make it this quick. I'll talk about the big leader shifts. The first one is the remote control doesn't work anymore. And for us leaders, especially for those who are managing teams, when we were asked to not report for work, that was one major adjustment in everything that we do. Prior to this, all learning and development facilitators would always tell, and all the other leaders to say, working from home is something that's quite attractive. And a lot of organizations say, yes, that's quite ideal, but it cannot be done. But what happened last March? We were forced into doing something as unimaginable as being dispersed from the office and working from anywhere we can. And that changed it. Unfortunately, some of the leaders were still so antsy and they still wanted to control their people. And so they would demand back to back Zoom meetings. In fact, for those of you who were so suffering from Zoom fatigue right now, you can also be classified as zombies, and that's sad because you cannot digitize control. You cannot check on your people every day if they're doing work, and leaders need to make adjustments that even if you don't see them working, you have to trust that metrics are in place and that your people are doing their best despite all the situations. Some of our offices are actually asking for people to go back to the office right now. And there are so many risks. So I actually congratulate and I am so appreciative of those people right now who are actually reporting to work in the office. So I hope you take care. So what do we need to do as leaders? First, we must push for the organization to redesign the jobs. Our job descriptions have to change. And this is the best opportunity to do so because everyone in the world is not exempted from what is happening and we have to change. As you all know, even the president of the United States is afflicted with COVID-19. So nobody's exempted. Number two, let us try to measure results, please, and not focus so much on the micromanagement of things because that is quite difficult to do. And it's going to be very stressful for leaders to worry about so many things. And the third one is let our people design their own playbooks. The inspiration for finding Mr. H.R. Day and Ma'am Pen actually pronounced it right. It was inspired 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I was working in a manufacturing plant at the zone. I was with HRD at that time. I was the training officer at that time. And then there was this lady security guard. At about 11 in the morning, she came huffing and puffing, and she was holding an envelope. And she was asking, and she actually gave up because apparently, as early as 8 a.m. that same morning, she was looking for an addressee on an envelope. And she was actually moving from one building to the other. In fact, imagine a very large manufacturing plant with about 7 to 8 buildings. And she had to go office to office, and she was looking for Mr. HRD. And everybody said, no, we don't have that. He's not an expatriate. He's not an employee. He's not a senior manager. He's not even a guest of the company. She gave up and she went to the HR office and she found me and she said, sir, I'm going to give up. I couldn't find this man. I looked at the envelope. There was no return address. In fact, the writing of the name was scrawled. It was not neat. It was not tidy. So I figured out it was actually dropped off right there at the gate. It was from an applicant. And Mr. HR Day was actually not a person. It was actually Human Resources Development Department. So it was actually an application letter from a factory worker, from a would-be factory worker, and a female at that. She was looking for Mr. HR Day. Somebody probably said, she probably asked, to whom should I address my application letter? Somebody said it's HRD, and she thought it was a person. And it was mispronounced as well as HRD. It's actually supposed to be it's HRD. And I realized a lot of people working right now are falling short of expectations, and their expectation understanding of how HR actually works may be limited because of that kind of understanding. That inspiration took shape, and that book actually came into fruition during the pandemic. So, what's the next step for leaders? First, the second step is actually for leaders like us to establish a rapport with each other, with ourselves. We cannot take care of others unless we get settled with our own self. The first one is, are you really honest with yourself right now? Are you happy where you are? Do you feel supported? Because if you're not, then there are so many questions, there are so many doubts in your minds, there's no way you can actually serve others. The second point is, there is a right to you for the right occasion. During these times, we need emphatic leaders. We do not need sarcastic leaders. We do not need close minded leaders. We do not need demanding leaders. We need emphatic leaders. If there is a session for us to share, we need the generous you. Please do not bring the overly rigid you, because it's not going to help in the situation. For those who have lost their loved ones, we need a concerned you. We do not need a detached you. The point here is that we leaders should know that for any given attention, we should bring the right us. If you're at home, bring the family you. Do not bring the corporate you, because it's not going to sink in with your children, especially if your children are already suffering from cabin fever after not being allowed to go out of the house. And the third one is, please don't make time as an excuse that we're running out of time. This pandemic has proven the fact that yes, we can actually work from home. Yes, things can be delegated. And the one thing that a lot of leaders cannot accept, the world will continue even without you being there physically. Work will continue, production will continue, and life will go on, even if you're not breathing down anybody's neck. So you need to reconcile that fact. The third one is, let us think about our team members first. So it's team first, customers next. Now I know you would react. We've always been taught that customers first. But what if you make commitments to customers and nobody will deliver because your internal team is actually not in sync? You will have a big problem of committing but not delivering. So how do you do that? We reverse now the pyramid. We leaders should serve our people and not the other way around anymore. We should not be bossy. The second one is, let us help our people by clearing the way of obstacles. Let's check our rules right now. Let's check our procedures. We cannot process documents because it takes so much time. We're actually, with technology, we can. We have so many levels of approval, and we don't need that. Or we don't need those levels of approval. We need to shorten the process. Why? Because we have to get out of the way. You let your people work, and you trust that they will deliver. Now, I'd like to briefly talk about some leadership pitfalls, and I think we should check again, examine ourselves. Are we guilty of any of these? The first one is that we listen too much and we give our own opinion too much weight. We love ourselves too much. There will always be opinionated people, people who will vocally talk about their opinions and try to convince others. But if you force your opinion to others, there is going to be a problem. I'd like to show you the anatomy of a faulty opinion. The first one is, you start a hypothesis. You will say that the world is flat, even if it's not. And then you look at the situation based on your opinion. So you will come in with your religious biases, political biases, cultural norms, and everything that you've been raised up with. And it actually shapes who you are. And so you become rigid, you become biased, and you think differently. The third one is, you let your experience shape you. Now, that's good if you actually had the experience yourself. But the problem is, for those of us who are so afraid to experience things by ourselves, we usurp the experience of others. We ask our friends. If our friends are biased, then we follow their bias. And so we shape our own opinion based on the experiences of others. And again, it adds to the tragedy of a faulty opinion. The fourth one is yes, we pretend to look at data, well, then we have data bias. We will only believe data from this particular source. Or we wanted to believe data that actually syncs with what we want based on our opinion. And then you don't want to listen to the other side. I used to work for radio, and admittedly, since I was in the morning shift, I would only read good news in the morning because I want everybody to wake up to good news. And I would not read the bad news, no matter how sensational the bad news was. But that's a total different thing. When you try to decide, you have to listen to both sides. We are a politically divided nation right now, and it shouldn't be like that because we stopped listening to the other side. Remember the boy who cried wolf? What if the other side is right? And the fifth one is we try so hard now to justify our opinion and to show that we are right in the first place. That complicates things. The second one is we use power distance much too often. What is power distance? Power distance is actually an imagined gap that emphasizes your opinion, your authority over the others. It is actually the feeling of inferiority and subordination that one is constantly subjected to. Like, for example, when you go to a company, you go to the parking lot. So of course, there will be reserved office parking spaces for executives. Initials would actually suffice. But to put their titles on those walls is actually a good example of power distance. To demand that you be addressed as sir or madam, that's power distance. To go to an office wherein you cannot even speak louder because the manager wants a quiet workplace, like a cemetery, for example. In fact, mas maingay pa nga yung cemetery minsan. That is power distance. When a leader is so aloof and so far off, he doesn't even talk to you. Ngayon, for example, if you have a problem, tatawagan yung boss mo. And then the boss would say, dumaan ka sa sekretarya ko. And then nakalimutan niya, work from home pala. So tatanungin ka ng tao, sir, where does your secretary live if I have to pass by her? You have to be filtered. Now is the best time to shorten that distance, or better yet, to eradicate the distance. You want to be reached? Cut the power distance. There's also the lack or absence of emphatic leadership. What is emphatic leadership? It's a type of conversation that we actually use. Here is an example. It's a good quote, by the way, in The Power of Messaging. Here, the most important thing in communicating is to hear what is not said. A lot of people say yes. Well, that's because they get intimidated by you, because you don't care. Minsan tinatanong mo, "Uy, kumusta ka na?" But actually, you're so insincere. And the person actually launches into a story about suffering through the COVID or to the pandemic. Ayaw mo nang makinig. Tapos sasabihin mo kagad, "Oops! Sige, sige, pag-usapan natin yan next time." And that next time is not going to happen. To be effective in messaging, we need to remember that we have to speak data. Information is so important. Hindi po pwedeng sooner or later, more or less, we need to quantify everything. Pag sinabing, patapos ka na ba? Yes. Kailan matatapos kaya? Mga kuan siguro, sir, more or less. Or encourage the person. Okay, can you put a specific time to it? So, we can both actually go back and check if it's actually going to happen, or if you're going to deliver, and if you need my help. Number two, you always have to answer the question, why? Why, sir? Why are we doing this? Why do I have to go back there, sir? Baka pwede naman pong dito na lang muna ako sa bahay. And you have to have the patience for it. It's like having a patience with your child who has so many questions in this world right now. Dad, why can't I go out? Keep the timeline updated. Keep it a moving target. Don't nail everybody on something that is especially under a very special circumstance, like what we're having now. Number four, you look at the indicators, you look at the numbers, and then you just simply ask, sige, what would you be willing to do now to improve the numbers? Hindi yung palaging we crucify people for not meeting the numbers. Number 5, may mga ayaw pag-usapan in the team. O bakit wala si sir? Ay, hindi pwede pag-usapan yan. Next topic, please. If you want the team to understand, they need to know the good news and the bad news. Organizations have the tendency to over-communicate bad news. Pag pangit yung resulta, palaging ina-update yung mga tao para ikinukondisyon na walang bonus this year. Pero pag maganda yung resulta, biglang tumatahimik. And there are topics that are off limits. But what if those topics are actually necessary? The other thing is, a leader should always check on the person without deviating from the fact that even during these times, we need to deliver the results. Maybe you will use your balanced scorecard. So you'll talk about metrics like financials. Now, this time, unahin mo yung tao, tanungin mo sa kanya. Oh, for example, this is just an example of an indicator. If from a high of from a low of 1 to a high of 7, how are you when it comes to financials ngayon? In terms of how you're managing the resources of the company. A person may say 3 out of 7, sir. Okay. What about your customers? What have you done for them lately? Both internal and external. The person may say, yeah, I did this for that. So 5 out of 7. And then you can ask, how did you make adjustments right now with the COVID, or you're working from home? Ano mong ginawa mo with the process? Did you do something that can actually improve the way we do things? Person might say 4 out of 7. And then this is the most important thing. Did you learn something new? 2 out of 7. A lot of organizations make the mistake that whenever there's a crisis, they will cut off immediately the training budget. That is a big mistake. This is the best time to learn. Lalo pa, we need to learn something new. We need to learn something drastic. We need to learn something to respond to crisis. Please do not cut the budget of training. That's the wrong way to do it. And finally, ask a person, how about you? On a scale of 1 to 7, how are you? How am I supporting you? And you will be ready for the answer. Fourth mistake is that we protect, and our concept of protection is actually to constrict. I remember when my daughter was just six years old, and I one afternoon, one lunch break, I actually took her to the school. And since it was lunch break, I had time. And so I said, my daughter said, okay, you can just play. So I observed her in the playground. There were 3 young boys, her classmates, who were also playing. They were playing using the swing. So my daughter went to the slide. You know what happened? When she went to the slide, the 3 boys went to the slide after her. And they bullied her away. I was so agitated. I was looking for the teacher. There was nobody there. But I was still trying to stop myself because these were children. My daughter went to the swing. But then the kids followed her to the swing. And so I stepped in. And my daughter, she faced me and she said, Dad, it's okay. You may go home now. And I said, they're bullying you. And she said, please, leave them to me. And I was so indignant. And I said, are you sure? She said, yes. She was 6 years old. 2 or 3 months after, I again dropped her off to school and checked. And you know what? When she came to the playground, she went to the playground. The 3 boys, they met her and they played with her. And they had a game and they had fun. And I realized I should let my child fight her own battles. I could never be there always. The same is true with people management. We tell our people that we need to protect them, but we overly protect them. My mother, she's probably watching right now. She's 69 years old. And back at the house, nobody is actually going to leave that. Nobody left the house during the height of the pandemic because we said that, she was vulnerable at her age. Nobody should leave the house. And we kept that. We kept that and we enforced that. And one day I was surprised when I went down and asked and looked for her. She was nowhere in the house. And I said, where is she? And my sister said, well, mom left. Where did she go? She went out. Where? She apparently bought some stuff for herself. And I was riled, and I said she violated a rule. She should not be out. She's vulnerable. And then when she got back, she was so happy. And she said, "We cannot win this if we hide. What if the virus stays with us for so many years? God forbid. We cannot live our lives this way. We have to eat. We can only depend on government for a time, and we need to do something about it." And we took her lead. She taught us courage. She always taught us about courage. And she said, "I'm 69. Let me take control of myself. Let me take care of myself. And I have taken care of you. I have taken care of the family. And I'm going to take care of myself with or without this virus." I'm not going to encourage people to do that because it may not be safe if you have vulnerabilities. But I should leave that to you. You should know. And I would like to share this with you. One of my favorite cartoon animated movies ever, Finding Nemo. And there's one very important exchange that I could never forget. It's between Marlin, when he was still looking for Nemo, and Dory, that forgetful genius who actually helped him. Marlin said, "I'll never let anything happen to him," referring to Nemo. And for his always protective approach to his son. And you know what Dory said? "Then nothing will. Nothing will happen to your son, good or bad." And that is constricting people. Hernan Cortez, Spanish conquistador, said he will attack the Aztecs. He was stopped. He continued with his conquest with only 5 ships or 11 ships. And then he asked his people to say, "Are you willing to die? There are only 2 choices. Either we attack the Aztecs, or we go back." And he said, "No, we're going to fight." And he said, "Are you sure you're going to fight?" And when everybody said, "Yes, we're going to fight, either die or succeed," he said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Yes." And he said, "Burn the boats." A lot of leaders make decisions because at the back of their minds, they can always go back. They can always take back their words. But courage is not about that. It's about being decisive and saying, "Once I do this, there's no going back." Nothing will ever be the same again after COVID-19. And we can never go back to that same situation before. Industries will have to change their playbook. The rules have to change. The approach have to change. This is the time to let go. Leaders need to lead by example. If we need to make risks, to take risks, these should be calculated risks. We should protect our people, but then we have to equip them. We have to always exercise courage and then diversity. We also need to protect psychological safety. And this is a very important case. Flight 173 on December 26, 1978, piloted by Captain Malborn McBroom, 52 years old and 25 years as a pilot, First Officer Roderick Beebe, and Flight Engineer Forrest Mendenhall with 181 passengers. They were on a flight just after Christmas, so 181 passengers and 8 crew members. Unfortunately, before they landed in Portland, Oregon, something actually happened in the plane. It shook. There was a loud noise. And the captain said, "I'm not sure if the landing gear is actually out." And so he flew around. He was flying around and looking and making sure that he would be able to land. Flight Engineer Forrest Mendenhall, soft-spoken as he was, he said, "Babe," because they were close friends with the pilot, and he called him Babe by his nickname. "Babe, we have about 17 minutes of fuel left." The captain said, "Yeah, that's enough time." And so he kept flying around because during that time, the flight instruments of airplanes were not as advanced. And Mendenhall said again after about 5 minutes, "Babe, we're running out of fuel." And the pilot said, "Yeah, don't worry." And then finally he said, "We only have 5 minutes of fuel." And the captain said, "Oops, where did the time go? We have to crash land." Portland, within the airport, within that area, was crowded, highly urbanized place. He had to find a park, and he crashed the plane. 10 people died that night, 8 passengers, and 2 crew members, including Forrest Mendenhall, who paid with his life. The Black Box review said Forrest Mendenhall was so calm because he trusted the pilot, and the pilot ignored the tone probably in the information or the sense of urgency. Why? Because a lot of us actually tone down because we're just subordinates. And we cannot really fight. If if I were Mendenhall, I would have shouted, "Hey, you may be the captain, but I know the fuel levels." If he had been more forceful, this actually came with the assessment about, are you psychologically safe in your company? Are you free to voice out your concerns, especially if your boss is wrong? Or do you just stay quiet because we're just subordinates? Is your company manned by managers who have always the last word in everything because they value their opinion too much? Or do they listen to us? So for those of us right now, even in our own families, I'm a father of 2 children. Can my children tell me that I'm wrong without me feeling insulted? Do you always have the last word in your family, even in the course, the careers they make? When my daughter said she wanted to be an IT student, my former wife said she should be a nurse. And now my daughter suffered from COVID in the UK. And at times she probably wished she was in a different career, especially during this time. She's a frontliner, and she's still back in the UK right now as a nurse. I just wished I had been stronger for her as well. I could have fought for her because at that time she barely had a voice in the family. So I hope before it's too late, we'll listen to our family members and help them and listen to them and let them be part of the decision making. And please do not take that personally. If people could actually say, I have another opinion which can actually work. Let people speak freely and keep our biases in check. Keep our tones in check. Avoid power distance. And whenever we talk to people, it's not just about work. Can we just check on them? How are you? How can I make you happy? Even if the answer is, sir, you want me to be happy? Of course. Can you resign? Well, not that happy. Do not be afraid of the answers, because the reason why you don't ask your people probably is because you're afraid that they will probably talk to you about their miseries and they probably borrow money from you and all of those burdens. But you'll never know. For a lot of people, just checking on them is actually inspiration enough. That means you care. Finally, I'd like to share this with you. It's a quote actually from Ramona Morgan. We had the opportunity to meet her personally. She's one of the executive coaches in such companies as Google and Apple. And you know what Ramona Morgan said? Honesty without caring is abuse. Sabihin na nating prangka ka. But is the recipient of your frankness ready for it? Can you say it in another way, please? We do not have the monopoly of frankness and expect everybody to just accept our honest words or honest feedback. In fact, you have to assess if what you're about to say is not going to help the person, then it's not feedback, it's criticism. And we don't need criticisms at this time. We need to look at, of course, our colleagues as partners right now. We need them because, especially if you are a leader with vulnerability who should not be out of your own house at this time, you will need to lean in on the people that you have to trust. And if you haven't found the people you trust yet at this time, you have a big problem. So this sums up my talk about leadership in a time of pandemic. And I hope that somehow, even if it's just a brief talk, you were able to pick up something that you can actually find useful You don't have to be a leader of a big group of people or a big crowd. You can start being a leader for yourself, and self leadership is actually very valuable. So, with that, I'd like to say thank you for listening, and I'd like to pass this over to Mamshe again. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you, Sir Jovinier.
Thank you.
Hello. So there, sorry I got cut in a bit. So very timely. So truly, I've listened to your earlier talk and very inspiring sharing, Sir Jovinier.
Thank you. Thank you.
That we truly have to trust our people in this time of pandemic. And for me, I can share with you personally that I am also leading a team in HR, and it truly is a challenge to be working from home. But
Yes.
the practice of trusting them really more is something that I need to do as well. So thank you for really the inspiring sharing. And we will now go to our Q&A portion. And so we have questions from our participants or jobs. So I
Okay. Thank
will,
you.
yeah, so I will be reading one of the questions.
I hope I can answer.
Yes, kayo pa, sir. Okay, so here. So one question from one of the participants says that can one be intentionally be inspiring? So in her observation or his observation, people who are inspiring didn't intend to be inspiring, yet they inspire others. So there are those who want to be inspiring but can't tell if they are one. And while inspiring someone can't be forced, since we draw different reasons for inspiration, I wonder if there's a way for a leader to tell that he is already on his way to being an inspiration. So that's the first question, sir. It's more of some are not really aware if they're really already an inspiring leader. So the question is, how can they really know if they are on their way?
I would rather say, Mamshe, that it shouldn't be front and center of everything that we do, because if you do that, it's a difficult goal to actually aim for, and you become so conscious of the fact that you want to be inspiring, and that's quite difficult, because inspiration is actually coming from within the person.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't probably set it up in such a way, because from an external point of view, we can be a motivator. And when people try so hard to be inspiring and it's not natural for you, it actually is bordering on playing politics. So, what I would like to probably suggest is that leaders focus on delivering the results through people, by looking after your people, and these are the things that we're supposed to be doing anyway. We take care of people, we harness their potentials, and so they deliver the results. Along the way, if people find you inspiring, that is the bonus, but that's not the intent. A leader has to deliver the results as mandated by your organization or by your team. I'd like to focus that, because there are so many leaders who play politics and they're so nice to people, and they try to extend their patience, and along the way people don't deliver because they abuse the kindness of a leader. And
Mm-hmm.
if that is the case, it becomes a burden for you. But since you really want to please them more than anything else, because you think that that's the way to inspire them, look at your numbers again, look at your results. So don't worry. If you deliver, if you take care of your people, if you harness their potentials, do you allow them to grow professionally and personally? Inspiration is a byproduct of that, and it's a natural byproduct.
All right. So thank you, Sir Jovinier. I hope that yeah, the question from our participant has been answered.
I hope
It,
so too.
yeah, truly that it's not something that you aim for, that being inspirational, but it
It
becomes
was,
a product or a result. Thank you,
yes, a
sir.
very challenging question, by the way. Thank you for that.
Yes. Okay, so we go to our second question. So how to be a leader that can gain respect and admiration? Maybe in addition, sir, to what you have earlier shared. What are other tips on how they can gain more respect and admiration?
Yes. I'd like to invite you all to the regional conference of PMAP Cebu. It's happening October 7th to 9. It's just check PMAP Cebu. And we're going to answer that question primarily. But here's a short version. During these times, people need clarity, self-mastery, and they need to be let go. Clarity is about reviewing what we're doing now, because this is an opportunity to work on a blank slate. It's like redesigning where we should be. A lot of the practices that we've been doing, we can let those things go. So a leader has to provide clarity at this point. Where are we going? What's the situation now in the company? What if this drags? What will happen to us? Will we still have jobs? And these these important points can actually put people's perspectives in the right manner so that they know exactly what they're dealing with. The next thing is self-mastery. Accelerate the skills that they needed. The leader can provide direction on what skills are needed right now. Flexibility, the technological know-how, the ability to transcend beyond the current situation. A leader must show also the example. The leader should actually learn with his people so that they develop the same skills needed now. And once you have the clarity and once you have the skills, it's time to let go. Letting go is not about leaving, it's actually giving your commitment without any more question because you know exactly that should be done. So I hope you will find time to join us for the regional conference. We have Francis Kong as our keynote speaker. We have a host of very insightful leaders and thought and you know uh, insightful leaders and of course thought leaders who will be sharing with us in the regional conference. So wherever you are in the Philippines, you can join because it's an all virtual conference happening October 7 to 9. And hopefully we can even reinforce the answer that I just gave. Free
There.
plugs. Free
Yes.
plugs.
Yeah,
And
very
IntelliCare
timely.
is one of our sponsors, so IntelliCare is going to be there.
Yes, very timely plug, Sir Jovin here. In fact, I can relate it what you shared, sir, that we have to really communicate with them where we are in the company. And I think many can relate as well that we've been doing a lot of town halls. So
Yes,
yeah, I think that's very important to take note that, to explain to them. I mean, not to hide or not to just
exactly.
really communicate with them the reality. So thank you, sir. I think we can accommodate two more questions, sir. So we have here's the third one. What if the highest leader, nako sir, medyo challenging to. What if the highest leader is the problem and he feels strongly that his opinion is right? So minsan nangyayari talaga to. So how do we deal with it?
So
If
that
the
ends our forum today. I would like to thank you. Yes.
Okay, biglang nag-end agad, sir. Medyo
Yes,
nagulat ako doon.
agree.
Okay.
But that this is the most important thing. Here you will have to look at can you influence within the organization. It's not easy that, especially if you're talking about family-owned companies, I can't give you a magic pill for that. If you go through, tapos yung kakausapin mo, mga kamag-anak din naman yun, lalo pa all family members in the same organization. That's a tough thing to sell. And I think you need to re-examine yourself. Are you still happy? Is it worth the challenges that you're experiencing right now? Now, I know we have very limited options during these times, but we have to imagine how big is the battle? What do I need to invest in? Is it really worth doing still at this point? On the other side, if you're naturally optimistic and if you feel this is so important for you and you take it upon yourself to help change the person, then you look at the influencers around that person. Who can you influence? Look at it's like a case study profiling the person. What is important to this person? Data, numbers. If that is the language he understands, then go that way. Uh, if a person is abrasive, unprofessional, and even if you pray the rosary on his behalf every day, he hasn't changed for so many years, maybe you can take the fight elsewhere. You have to save your energy for something worthwhile. But if you think there is still a way, find the language of that person. Person can be insecure and he hides that by being abrasive or by being strong, by being loud. I draw the line, for example, if a boss yells at me and I said, "Sir, I'll talk to you when you're ready." Pag sinabi niya, I can do what I want, of course. And then you can also say, I will reserve the same rights, sir. I can also do what I want. And you may have to reconsider. Again, choose your battle wisely. If it's worth it, do it. Find the language. What makes the person tick? What is his interest? And go that way. If a person loves results, go through the results. Now, if you're failing in the results, you can tell the person, sir, I think I know how to reverse my results right now, but I need help. And then document, please. Difficult managers, black and white is so important to them because the tendency to go back on their own instruction, to go back against their words, to change their minds. And if you are holding something as abstract as yung pinag-usapan between the two of you lose. So you have to make sure, sir, is that an instruction from you? Yes. Can you please give it to me in black and white so I can have handy reference, sir, so that I can keep track. And no matter the urge to fight back, please don't. A toxic person will enjoy it if you become toxic yourself. So I hope it helps.
All right. Sir Jovenier,
Yes,
you
Ma'am
you
Chair.
just you I think we really have really good questions from our participants, but at this point we will also like to apologize maybe for some na hindi na mabasa, but maybe they can reach you later on your email if that's
And
okay.
by all means, and you know
Yes.
what? I hope you get a copy of Finding Mr. HRD because you may find the answer there. I've
Yes, yes,
dissected the functions of
absolutely.
people management, so you
Right,
may find some
sir.
answers there. Yes, I'm promoting it now, Ma'am Chair. Thank you.
Okay, yes, yes, sir. But I think we can just have one more question, Sir Joviner. Is that okay? One
I
more?
leave that up to you, Ma'am Chair.
Okay,
I
so we'll
reserve
just
it.
go for the last question. It's here. Wait for a while. Sir, eto, I think this is also something that our participants would be interested. Do you do leadership talks, and so that they're interested if you can be invited as well? Maybe you
I'm
can share with them how you can be reached. Maybe this is the point where they can have your contact details.
I'd be very honored to be invited. Anything that can actually help, especially during these times. And you can go to my website. It's ideascentral.ph. My contact details are there. Ideascentral.ph. My mobile number is there. My email address is there, so you can get in touch with me. So ideascentral.ph. Ideascentral.ph. Yes.
All
And thank you for
right.
thinking about it.
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much for all our engaged participants. So it has been a fruitful Q&A portion, sir. And I think this is also going to be the time for you to be able to launch your book. And we will really love to hear about it. What is the gist of your book and how it can, kind of like how it can help us.
Okay, so at this point in time, I would just like to, in a book launch, Michelle, it's actually I make it a point that in my previous book launches, I always have something that is so close to me, and that is actually the power of music. So I'd like to take us a very short break because I have a special guest who will do a special number for all of you guys just to ease up in the
Right?
afternoon. Is that okay?
Yes, that would be lovely to hear.
Okay, guys, so here it is. And when we get back, I have also a reader who will share with you a short segment from the book. And of course, another good friend who will give you his honest review. And don't worry, even if we're good friends, this person is really very, very opinionated. And I trust his opinion so much. And even if we're close friends, he will tell you the truth. So, but before that, here it is.
Hello, so Sir Jobs. Maybe there's no audio. Maybe there's a need to share audio. Sir Jobs. Sorry to interrupt. Sir Job, can you hear? There. Thank you.
Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad. You gotta be bold. You gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard. You gotta be tough. You gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool. You gotta be calm. You gotta stay together. All I know, love saved the day. Heaven, what your mother said. Read the books your father read. Try to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you, others take a different view. But oh my, you gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love saved the day. Don't ask no questions, it goes on without you. Leaving you behind if you can stand the pace. World keeps on spinning, stop it if you try to. This time danger's staring you in the face. Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. My, oh my, yeah. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be cool, you gotta be hard.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So what a
So
lovely launch of your book, sir. So it's very interesting to be
thank
able to
you.
hear that song as well. So
I'd like to
na-relax po
thank,
kami.
yes, Ma'am Shah, I'd like to thank Job Libres for that music. And I personally chose the song. It's actually by Desiree. You gotta be. So I like the message. You gotta be bold. You gotta be tough. You gotta be stronger, especially during these times.
Right, right. Absolutely, sir. Very timely song choice. And we really be we have a lot. I'm sure that everyone has a lot take away from your talk this afternoon, and even myself, I have a lot of things that I've gotten from your sharing,
Thank
and
you.
I will definitely choose ano yung ayun applicable sa work ko. And thank you for a very inspiring talk. And of course, we'd like to take this time to share with them, sir, if they're interested to buy your book, they can actually scan the QR code that we're providing on the screen. So if they're interested, they can scan the QR code on your screen. So please do scan it. You can actually save it for later, and then do a quick review of what Sir Joviner's book has in store for you. So,
Thank you.
all
And
right.
I'm sure we have also invited, if it's okay, we can hear
Sure, sir.
from, yes. So I'd
Yeah.
like to call in first a good friend of mine, Miss Jocelyn Cannon, if she's already in. Joey. I asked her to
Hi, Sir
read.
Job.
Hi, good afternoon, Miss
Good
Jocelyn.
afternoon.
Yes. So thank you very much for accepting the invite. And actually, you could not say no, and
How can I say
that's
no?
the beauty of this. So she's she's actually the community relations director of Qualphone. So Miss Joey, yours
Sure.
now.
Okay. So, a little introduction before the book reading, Sir Job, is I have to be very honest. I just finished reading the book yesterday. I have been in the HR practice for 10 years, but that 10 years was up to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, around 2010 or 2011. So I was a little skeptic about the book, if it zeroed in on the HR practice, which I am no longer directly part of. But lo and behold, as I started reading, and then I just couldn't stop. So and I shared with Sir Jov earlier that it's a book for all beginners to seasoned people managers, and it is not intimidating to beginners as it talks about pitfalls one could encounter in the leadership journey. I also found myself pausing in between readings, reflecting on personal experiences, what I did wrong, what I did right, what more can I do, and how else can I improve. So I'd like to read paragraphs. My most favorite. It's actually chapter 5, page 44 and 45. Don't worry, I'm not gonna read um, all of it. So um, here it goes. As leadership became embedded in the practice of organizational management, the parameters and challenges may have changed, but the essence has always remained the same. The character, the integrity, and the legacy that inspired and brought out the best from their people have fueled a chain reaction of selflessness, brilliance, and foresight like torches passed on from one generation to the next. Modern day leaders may be valued for their innovative ideas, groundbreaking discoveries, and contribution to the betterment of the lives of the people they lead. But the core principles of leadership remain. The likes of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Larry Page, Oprah Winfrey, Nelson Mandela, and are considered top influencers, each representing practical and people centered idealisms, not just pure business or socio political agenda. So, as 2020 began, and almost without warning, Today's leaders just got their job descriptions drastically rewritten. Satya Nadella, for example, Microsoft's chief executive, said in an April 30, 2020 article that as the modern world went into a hard lockdown at the height of the pandemic, we witnessed 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Joey. Thank you so much for taking time. I know you're very busy and thank you for sharing the input. So I hope that actually gives you a glimpse of a specific area. And I really love that chapter as well because it's my favorite. It's the leadership chapter. And it talks about the role of leaders. So for those of you who are interested, please read the book. And thank you, Ms. Joey. So at this point in time, I would like to call the Chief People Officer of the Ramon Amoydes Foundation Incorporated, a trustee of PMAP, and for the Visayas, PMAP National, and a good friend of mine. And I told you this, even if we're close friends, I will trust his opinion. He can be very opinionated, but 99% he's on the dot. The only 1% that he's not on the dot is my age. I'd like to call Mr. Michael Godinez.
Hi, Sir Jobs. Hi.
Hi, Sir Mike.
Hi, IntelliCare peeps. I know I'm
Ah,
also a common staple among IntelliCare webinars, Sir Jobs.
you
I
did
have
it,
spoken.
IntelliTalks, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, and you know, my besides working for Rafi, I'm also a celebrity in my own right, and my talent manager is
Royalty.
my talent manager is Mr. Chito Ricamadas. So in Filipino terms, he is my bugaw. So just kidding. Shout out to Sir Chito. Anyways, talking about the book, I also like that chapter that Joey read. No, but basically, while I was reading the book, actually, it takes you to a journey. It reminded me of my own journey. Although Sir Jobs is like 3 decades older than me, probably. Um, I think when I started my career, I'm still in human capital or in human resources. It's more popularly known now as people management. So I'd like also to refer to our profession as into people management. And I think one of the interesting fact is that finding Mr. HRD is also a very it's a comic yet a very realistic more or less representation of our journey as HR practitioners. No, clearly I can very much relate when you started when I started with my career. There was a feeling of being not enough. Sometimes you also come to a point that you know that you can do almost everything as HR. Then eventually, as you grow mature and become a people manager, you'd realize that that the most difficult part of really handling people is managing people itself. No, I mean, sometimes we get too excited becoming managers that we forget about the most challenging part. This is really dealing with people, dealing with different individuals. So as what the book clearly represented, no, in our journey as HR practitioners, I think everyone can very much relate because you would be able to see your journey as a professional from starting from scratch, no, from being a newbie, being very wary about the writings on the wall, no, everything that you hear from your managers or you hear from your bosses, especially all of those things that's new to you, you would probably say, wow. So you get amazed by simple things, learnings from your bosses, from your colleagues. Then eventually, when you become managers, when you have the moral authority to say things that should motivate your people, to say things that are supposed to give direction to your group, to your team. So that journey is very I would say very unforgettable, and this book captured that. Not I think not just for seasoned HR practitioners, but for everyone who's into the journey or who went through the journey or still going through the journey, eventually. So it's really finding your inner, more or less inner people manager. At the end of it all, in the peaks and the valleys of our career, it's about how we touch people's lives, how we made impact, and how we were able to pay it forward after all the learnings that we have seen, the writings on the wall that we have learned because of the colleagues, of our mentors, even with our tormentors. So everything is there. So the good thing about this book, this is very realistic. No, it doesn't talk about the, the theories. I mean, you would see a lot of reference. No? I mean, that's basically the strength of our author. He reads a lot. He's well read. He subscribes to a lot of readings. No, and uh, I think at the end of it all, what you appreciate about his masterpiece, I would say, is that it becomes an HR playbook. It's easy for you to understand, and at the end of it all, you'd appreciate that the most important uh, parang attribute of being a good people manager is really being authentic, and that for me was striking about this book, and the reality to accept that you have to change before you have to. I mean, I told Sir Jobs this is the most striking part of the book, and I still feel that I need to remind myself constantly this time that you have to change before you have to. We need to change before we have to, even if we have to reset. You should not be afraid to push that reset button, and that for me, regardless of your stage in your career, whether you're a beginner, you're already a specialist, a supervisor, a manager, an executive, I think that kind of mindset would really help. And this book clearly more or less illustrated that, and it's really pronounced. I mean, if you read the chapters, no, I think I've read the book. I'm on my. I think for me to really understand the whole concept of the book, I'm on my second time. No, I have read it. I finished it the first time. I'm reading it again for me to really also pick up points that I have might miss. No, and I think it's really interesting. It's not. I sure it's not gonna bore you. It's not just purely HR. It's really about your own personal journey as a professional, and I think that's one thing I really appreciate about this book. It's very realistic. It's very classic, and up to this point, it still is very true to where we are as professionals, regardless of your position in your organization. So, thank you very much, Sir Jobs, for this wonderful masterpiece, and looking forward to reading more books from you. And guys, I'd like to encourage everyone to please read and read this Finding Mr. HRD. It's such an interesting piece of art. Thank you,
Thank
Sir
you.
Jobs.
Thank you, Sir Mike. Thank you so much. Are you sure you read my book, or you probably read somebody else's book?
I'm trying to create. Actually, I'm trying to create a better version of this book, Sir Jobs. So,
Okay.
right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so honored, and wow, thank you so much for everything that you said about the work. So thank you, Sir Mike. And thank you, Ms. Joey. And again, I would also like to especially thank my collaborator for the book, Cheyenne Libres, whose artwork you will see in the book. And of course, the collaborators, Trish, thank you so much for collaborating, my editor. And Amber is also helping, a lot of great help, especially for this launch. It's my very first virtual launch, and I think for most of us here, it's a virtual launch for a book. So thank you once again. Thank you so much, and for everybody who's here, who's listening, who's watching. Thank you so much. Daghan kaayong salamat for joining me in this very special occasion. Of course, Dr. Grace Iligan, thank you so much, ma'am, and the rest of PMAP Cebu. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, Sir Chito Recamadas and Sir JM and Ma'am Shea. Thank you.
All right, sir. So I think today isn't over yet because we thank you for that you will give away two books this
Yes.
afternoon.
And how do we
Right.
do
So
that?
actually earlier JM already helped us. So he went through the registration list and
Yes.
he has he used Alexa to choose two winners. So I'm going to we did a pre-draw already so that we will save time. So we'll just call off the winners. So
Yes, please.
congratulations to Maria Teresita from Bastille Perth Serve Incorporation.
Yes.
And yes,
Congratulations.
yeah,
I will sign every
congratulations.
page, Ma'am
Yes,
Shea. I will sign every page.
wow, excellent. And another winner, the second winner is Mary Chris Pastera from Iwakami Corporation. So congratulations to both of our winners.
Congratulations. So from
So
PertServe Incorporated, congratulations, Maria
yes,
Teresita Bestil, and
yes,
of course,
from Mary Chris
from,
Pastera from
yes,
Iwakami Corporation as well.
Iwakami Corporation. So we will, if you can, please share with us your mailing address so
Yes,
we can send to you direct the book, and I'll write something there for each one of you.
right.
Congratulations and thank you. Thank you. I hope
Wow,
there's many to go to.
congratulations.
Thank you
Okay, so
so much.
interesting. So, Sir Jovinier, really, we would like also to thank you for gracing this afternoon's learning session. I'm pretty sure that everyone has learned a lot, and we're looking forward to reading your book as well. So,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. And, sir, sorry for a last reminder, we'd like to remind them of the upcoming PMAP Regional Conference. Maybe you can plug again.
Yes, it's the regional conference. I'd just like to share very briefly. And the for the regional conference, it's happening on October 7 to 9. By the way, after after finding Mr. HRD, I'm going back to my first love, which is actually fiction writing. And the book is coming this fall, A Bucket Helmet and the Paper Gun War. So it's a fiction novel. So it's suspense, comedy, horror, and everything else. It's a love story as well. But the most important thing is HR Unfrozen, The Power of Clarity, Self-Mastery and Letting Go, and the third Visayan Summit. That's happening October 7 to 9. Please check PMAP Cebu, the website. You can follow us at Facebook, PMAP Cebu, Instagram, LinkedIn, and every social media site there is, including Twitter. So please join us. And for 2,500 pesos only, you will receive a tote bag, which actually contains your wellness kit and a copy of Finding Mr. HRD once again. So a lot of great things, a great lineup of speakers, and of course, a truly virtual but engaging experience for learning. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So there you have it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you, Sir Govinia, and to all our
Thank you,
participants.
Moshe. Thank you so
Have a
much.
great day. So good day, and we look forward to seeing you in the next IntelliTalk. IntelliTalk. Good afternoon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.